My name is Childers Adams. I'm a senior forestry major here at Warnell. This summer I worked for Rayonier Inc. down in the Coastal Resource Unit out of the Jesup, Georgia, and the Yulee, Florida offices. A little background on Rayonier. They're a global forest products company founded in 1926 with an office in San Francisco. They are now headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, and employ around 300 people. The company is a real estate investment trust. They went through a big restructuring in 2014 when they spun off their mill operations, which is now Rayonier Advanced Materials. So now Rayonier Inc. is in control of their land base, which is approximately 2.7 million acres. Their most productive area is the U.S. Southeast, but they also have land out in Oregon, Washington, Texas, Arkansas, and then over in New Zealand they operate as Madariki Forests. They focus on the production of radiata pine to ship to Asian log markets over there. The main objectives of my internship personally was just to gain knowledge and experience in the private sector, learn in the classroom, and get some hands-on experience. Rayonier's objective for their operational interns is to receive a well-rounded view of their operations. They have different departments within the company. I spent most of my time with the timber marketing team, but also spent time in the non-timber income department, resource land management, and a couple days in research. So my main tasks and assignments, I spent a good amount of my time doing harvest compliance reports, and that consisted, it's pretty much an audit on active timber sale areas on logging crews. There were three parts to that. We had wood security, so I would go and check their load tickets and made sure they had their facility cards as well. We had a contract section of that, which had to do with them, making sure they were cutting in the sale area. Did they have trash? And then did they have their oil spill kit on site? And then the third part of that report was BMPs. So if there were any SMZs, was the integrity maintained there? And then also was there rutting and things like that, which was a big issue down in the Flatwoods region where they have those very wet soils, and we did get a good amount of rain this summer, so that was an issue. We had crews having to pull off certain areas, so I was out there once a week for each crew, checking on them and performing these audits. I did a good amount of map making, particularly timber sale maps, upcoming sales that we had, or sales that we were trying to get a contract made for. So spatial was very beneficial in that area. Their system is an ArcMap system called LMS, and so spent a good time on that, and also made some for the resource land managers as well. Timber sale preparation, did a good amount of boundary marking. So if we had a sale, a certain cut, and so I would go out there and mark the outside of the border, protect SMZs if needed. If there were any ditches, I would have to paint a stringer around those, and then some of our pine sales, there would be a hardwood pond in there, and so I would have to paint that out as well, so the logger knew not to get into that. Non-timber income duties, I spent some time with the RDM, that's the resource development manager, so he's in charge of generating income for the company not related to timber. So his main businesses were hunting leases. We lease out all of the land that Rayonier owns for hunting. He did fill dirt leases, honeybee leases. Pretty much pine straw was a big moneymaker for him as well. So pretty much I would go out there, collect fill dirt load tickets, make sure that company was pulling out of the right pit. Sometimes hunting lease, people would end their hunting leases, and I'd have to go out there, and they would have their personal locks on our gates, and I'd have to go take those off and do things like that. So you never knew what you're going to get into with NTI, as they call it. I only did about a week of audit cruising. Rayonier now outsources all of their cruising, so I would get a stack of paper on a cruise that a consultant did, and I would pick, he said he wanted 5 to 10 plots per each cruiser just to check their accuracy. So I'd go out there with a 20 prism, they would have plot center marked, and I would get the trees they said were in and check the DVHs and heights that they had said and see if they were accurate. Most of the time they were. I did stumble across a couple guys that I think just made up some trees, but for the most part they're pretty accurate. That's their job. So a couple weeks I spent indoors on the computer calculating haul distances from sale areas to local facilities. So we would have upcoming sales, and depending on what products were out there and the tonnage of each, they gave me a list of mills within probably 120 mile radius, and I would have to go on to LMS, find logging roads that we would be able to access that timber at, put a point, and then put a point at each of the different mill addresses, and from that it would give me distance. And so I created a spreadsheet that showed each timber sale we had upcoming for 2016 in the CRU, and be able to figure out which mill we were going to take that to. And from that I was able to create the 2016 sales summary. That was one project I worked very heavily on. So like I said, I entered in all those 2016 sales we had for the following year, went into LMS, which has the data for the tonnages, the product classes, if any roads need construction, and basically I was in charge of compiling this big spreadsheet that was all linked, so I'd be able to put in the facility we're going to in mileage, and it would be linked to the price of logging rates, and so they would be able to see what we were going to generate off that particular sale, and then what it would cost us also to send it to the mill. And there was a lot of information needed for those. So contribution, like I said, I spent a good amount of time doing those compliance reports and timber sale marking. That is contracted out to a fellow named Lewis in that particular area that does all of their compliance and marking. So it prevented them from having to spend some extra money. I think he gets paid by the hour, and so just saving some money and also learning myself, so that was a good deal. Performing NTI duties allowed the RDM to focus on growing his pine straw and fill dirt business. A lot of those things, pine straw, fill dirt, those aren't constant, such as timber sales are, so he's continually having to spend time into growing that business. And we had a company, his main pine straw company said one of the stands they'd been getting pine straw for a long time was real wet and they didn't need it anymore. So I think that's just one thing that you kind of got to just keep hunkering down on, and so giving him some extra time to not focus on the small things and be able to grow those businesses I think helped him out a lot. And then that sales summary, I did that completely on my own, and that provided the Coastal Resource Unit with an accurate forecast of what they plan to generate in 2016, so they could kind of get an estimate. A big company like that, they're given a budget, and they kind of got to keep up with that throughout the year to see if they're going to meet, exceed, or be below it. And so it was just a good kind of record-keeping thing for them to have, to know what they were planning on getting, just so they could have an idea of that. Relevant coursework, Forestry Field Camp, having that right before the internship was very helpful. Cruising, learning about silviculture, and then seeing mill operations and seeing the different products that mills take and what they produce. A lot of those were familiar to the distances I was doing, so I knew, I know where that is, I've been there. So that was very, very helpful. Spatial analysis, just knowing how to operate ArcMap was very beneficial. I was able to get in there the first day and make timber sale maps and just hit the ground with my feet running, whereas the other intern from NC State had not difficulty getting used to that, which really made me grateful that that is required. It gave me a leg up. So silviculture, I spent some time with the resource land managers, so they're in charge of site prep, herbaceous weed control, things of that nature. And so most of the days I would just go with them, and they would be checking out maybe a plot they were thinking about releasing that they hadn't marked for that year, and they just hadn't seen the stand. Also, I looked at an acquisition property, a potential one, with one of the land managers, and just having that background in silviculture, just knowing what they're talking about with raking and bedding and stuff like that. I mean, just knowing that lingo kind of helped me, see what was going on. I would have wished I had harvesting and roads done. I wish I would have had more of a kind of a business background. Since I was dealing with the timber marketing team and timber sales and contracts and, pay as cut versus lump sum sales, that was the first time I'd heard about those things, but the first time I really, saw it in action. And I wish I would have had that knowledge when I started my internship, but we're doing that right now in harvesting, so I am learning that. But all in all, Warnell prepared me very well as far as having good relationships with industry professionals, and also Amy keeping us up to date on open internships. Rayonier conducts their internship interviews here in Warnell, so that was a sweet deal. And these are just some pictures I have from this summer. That's a clear cut we had. This was a crew, I think it was D&M logging that I was auditing. We had some issues with their stump heights, but all in all they did a pretty good job. And then this is me walking through a swamp with the one of the resource land managers. That was a potential acquisition property, so we were out there and he was kind of checking out site index, and I think it ended up being a little out of their price range. They like to pay around $1,500 per acre, give or take, and sometimes that's just a lot less than what people are willing to sell it for. So this is one of my signs that I accrued over the summer. So that's about it. All in all, it was a great experience. I highly recommend, if anyone gets the opportunity to work for Rayonier in the Coastal Resource Unit, to go ahead and take it. A lot of cool guys, a lot of younger guys that went to Georgia, and just did a good job at getting me out there. And I got to see a bunch of different things, which I'm very grateful for. So all in all, it was a great experience.